Y'all ready?
We ready.
On the
Y'all
wild
ready?
one.
Y'all ready?
Amen.
DJ Khaled.
Welcome back to the Handlebar podcast. We're so excited to be with you guys for this episode.
You don't sound excited.
Woo, woo.
I am excited.
Oh, there it is.
Aaron.
There it is.
I'm with my friends. We're having fun talking
We are
about
having fun.
Jesus.
We are.
Who's going to pick this one?
You got it.
Me? No. Elissa has the anointing.
I'll pick
for
it.
this.
I'll pick it.
Come on, E.
Drum roll.
Come
Drum
on,
roll,
E.
please.
Okay. Ooh. Why is the secret place important?
Ooh.
Ooh.
Got to go there to
Got
find
a
out.
secret.
Ooh.
Can you keep it? If you know, you know.
All right, 15-minute timer. Sir Beth, you do the honors, girl. You hit that little green button. That
Right,
start.
3, 2, 1.
Boom. What was the question
Amazing.
again? Why is the secret place
Important.
important?
Dang, are we going there, Aaron?
Important.
Aaron, I feel like you got something to say.
I
I feel like you got a little story about a pickle to say.
I don't know if I have a story. I'm sure.
About a pickle?
Yeah.
Oh, about it. Oh, it's
Come
because
on, go there, Aaron. Are you going there?
It's because I preached a sermon one time. Rafi and I were in El Paso at a church. Shout
That
out
explains
to
it.
El Paso.
Changed my life.
And I preached a sermon about how the secret place is like a jar of vinegar. And I didn't know, I know now, but I didn't know that a cucumber was a pickle.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Let me say that again. That a pickle was a cucumber. I didn't know. I thought they were two separate things.
Your older sister never told you?
She never told me, bro. She
Where is she?
didn't.
Yeah.
No. And if you're like me and you did not know that a pickle was a cucumber, all that cucumber did was sit in a jar of vinegar until it became a pickle. What was refreshing and sweet was transformed into something sour
And crispy and,
crispy,
flavorful.
delicious. And it's a silly analogy, but I have used it as an analogy to liken that to the secret place. What is the secret place? If you're listening and you're like, what's the secret place? I don't know that language. Secret place, what are you talking about? Well, Matthew 5, 6, 7, the Sermon on the Mount is one of the main themes of that message that Jesus preaches is how the Father is found in secret.
Yes.
He gives a bunch of different examples. When you pray, don't pray like the hypocrites who like to pray before people so that they can so that they can be seen. But go, I'm paraphrasing because I'm not there, but go and pray in secret. Go shut the door, Jesus says. And
Matthew 6.
Matthew
6.
6,
Yeah.
6, 6. Let me read it. He says, but you, when you pray, go into your room, and when you have shut your door, pray to your Father who is in secret, who is in the secret place, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. He's also going to talk about giving. When you give, don't give like the hypocrites who give to be seen, but give in secret that your Father who is in secret will see. When you fast, don't fast like the hypocrites who fast to be seen, but you wash your face, anoint your head so that you don't seem to be fasting. And your Father who is in secret. It's one of the main themes of the Sermon on the Mount is that the Father is found in secret.
So that answers the question right off the bat. Why is the secret place important? Because it's where he's found. He's in the secret
man.
place.
The Father is found in
That-
secret.
to
If you
put
want to
it
find the
simply-
Father, you find him in secret.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It's where he is.
There is over 20 different verses throughout the Gospels that say something along these lines. And Jesus withdrew to pray alone.
Yes. He
And Jesus went to the
alone.
mountain to pray
Yeah.
alone. And Jesus isolated himself in prayer. And Jesus, all around how Jesus would withdraw from the people, he'd withdraw from the crowds, he'd withdraw from the disciples, he would go find a space by himself, and he would pray to the Father who is
Right.
in secret.
He did it all the time.
He did
That
it all
was
the time.
Jesus being in the secret place, if you don't know. Like, that's what it looked like for him, is getting alone on the mountain, isolating himself, praying to the Father without anybody around him most of the time.
Yeah. Why is the secret place important? Because the Father's there.
Because that's where he is. It's where he said he would be found.
I like to think of it this way too, is have you ever hung out in a group of people and you showed up with like 2 or 3 people you're close to, and then these other people showed up with 2 or 3 people that they're close to, but then it's like your close friends end up leaving and you're stuck with someone I wouldn't say stuck, but you're now
You're stuck,
now in a
kinda, yeah.
situation with someone who you've been hanging out with, you've been around all the time, but now you realize you don't know each
I
other.
don't know them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is
And so
good.
the secret place is how you build history
Yeah.
with God, with the Father. It's how you personally invite God to know you and you know him. And it's vital. I think real intimacy with a person takes intentionality. It takes one-on-one time.
Right.
If you don't have one-on-one time with someone, you're probably not very close to them. And so I think the secret place is important because we can be, I think, with big events and lots of people in a room, we can trick ourselves into thinking we know God because we're around him and we're around his
Right.
people. But when we get alone, we feel awkward and we feel anxious and we don't know how to sit there and read our Bible. We don't know how to engage God. And it's the same. God is a person, so it's okay if you feel awkward. It's okay if there's tension, if you feel anxious, like, what am I doing here in my room alone? You know, and I think what's beautiful about the secret place is it confronts you, confronts your faith.
Confronts your
It
motive.
confronts your motive. It confronts, honestly, your history, how deep you really know God. And what's so beautiful about it is I don't mean that in a condemning way. I mean that as more of an invitation where you sit there and you ask questions. And I know for me, I have to address the elephant in the room when I'm by myself with the Lord, where I'm like, okay, Lord, I'm having actually a hard time connecting right now. Like, my mind feels scattered. Like, can you help me be with you? Like, I literally ask for his help to be with him because I'm human and I can overthink, and it takes faith. It definitely takes faith. Like Hebrews 11, where it says those who come to God must believe that he is, and that he
he's
is
a
a
rewarder.
rewarder of those who diligently seek him.
Wow.
That's so good.
So that's kind of my thoughts, you know?
Yeah.
I remember when I used to get scheduled to preach, I would make sure that week, the week of that sermon, that I was in the secret place.
That's
It's
so
like, oh, I'm preaching
real.
Sunday. I need to make sure I'm alone with God every day this week, so he'll show up while I preach. And I realized I had a skewed perspective of the secret place. And because so many of us, we've mistaken influence for intimacy. We've mistaken influence for anointing. And I actually have written on the cover of my Bible, my influence does not determine my intimacy, and my following does not determine my anointing. Because I used to think you get in the secret place, well, then you get power and it's for the public. You know, if I want power in public, then I need to be in private. And what I actually learned as I would continue to get in the secret place, when I first started getting into the secret place, I was getting in the secret place for the wrong motive. But getting into the secret place, the Father purified my motive. He wasn't worried about my motive. He just purified it.
Yeah.
And he purified my motive. And I actually realized that in the secret place, I don't get influence. In the secret place, I don't get anointing. In the secret place, I get him. And that's what's beautiful about the secret place is the more I get alone with him, the more I get in secret with him, the more I begin to realize you really are daily bread. You really are my source. You really are everything to me. And I think the enemy can twist. When I heard someone say this one time, someone was preaching and they said, there comes a time in your walk with the Lord where the enemy knows he can't tempt you with old sins.
Yeah.
So he tempts you with distractions or lies. He twists things. And I think one of the things he likes to twist is the belief that the secret place will get you somewhere or will get you favor, promotion, and whatever. But I think the reality is that the secret place gets you intimacy. The secret place gets you history. The secret place gets you him. And when you get him, you realize nothing else matters. You realize that promotion doesn't matter. You realize whatever it is that you can be living for, that secret motive that you would never say out loud, but is there in your heart and only you and only God knows, that thing is purified in the secret place. And I think I'm so zealous about this for young followers of Jesus, because I am a young follower of Jesus, and this has been my story where the enemy has tried to twist the most precious gift, which is the secret place, into something that it was never meant to be. To believing I'll get something if I get in there.
Well, because it's like none of those other things like crowds or being in public, all of that will burn up before him on the day that he comes back. There's a passage about all the earthly things are going to burn up. Like they're not going to last. They're not going to go with us into eternity. Like like the praise of man, when, you know, a stadium stands and claps or whatever, you get a like on Instagram or a comment, like that's where it ends. So you better enjoy it. I heard someone say that one time. You better enjoy that applause or that, you know, person that's enthralled by you, because that's where it ends. None of this comes into eternity. None of it matters. So I think, well, why is the secret place important? Because it's actually something that's going to last. It's going to go with us into eternity. We're going to live in the secret place with him forever, face to face. And it's like, if I don't know him like that here, will I know him like that there? I don't know.
I think it's like, oh man, it touches like on God's ultimate desire. It's like it's hard to say this. Like, hear what I'm saying. He doesn't desire ministry from you.
Right.
Like, that's not ultimately what he desires, for you to do ministry or for you to have influence in the world, or like his fundamental desire is relationship with us. That's what his motivator is.
Yeah.
And so I think of like a married couple, like what you were saying, if that only speaks in public and never in private,
So weird.
no one would, I wouldn't think that that marriage would last.
No.
Actually, I'm thinking of a quote from Charles Spurgeon that says 9 times out of 10, the reason for someone falling away is the neglect of private prayer.
Wow.
And I think it's so profound because it's the whole to me, it's the whole substance of our relationship with him.
Yes.
Is this like everything else that someone sees flows from that place.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's kind of counterfeit.
It's like prostituting.
Which is like, what's crazy is he's
Prostitution
so
is
like,
paid for or public intimacy,
right.
essentially.
Right.
He's so like gracious and merciful about it too.
Right.
Because like ultimately this is what he desires, our hearts and a relationship. And the thing is, when you get in the secret place, it can be hard. I'll be the first one to admit there can be a lot of obstacles to get there.
Well, I think it's because your flesh doesn't want you to get there.
Right. But once you're there, I think anyone who has this like place cultivated with the Lord, you realize that our secret place with him is like, I mean, it's the garden restored. It's like where God walks with man. It's what Jesus was saying when he says, the Father's house has many rooms. You know the way to where I'm going. Like that's what he was referring to, is this whole realm with God where we get to know him and he gets to know us. And like this is what it's all about. And I remember when like my first season of really like testing God in it, like really getting alone with him, I remember having the thought so many times, if I didn't have anything, if I lived on a random mountain in the middle of Asia and there was no one there, but I had this, what I have right now, I'd be okay.
Wow.
And there's that, like, we're walking around our lives with that available on the inside. This place with him. And I think ultimately also there's beautiful fruit of it. Like when you spend time with him, you look more like him.
Yes.
And when you spend time with him, you learn more about him and you even learn more about who you really are. But ultimately, like, he's more beautiful than anything. And that to me is why it's important, is you get to meet with him.
Yeah.
You get to be face to face with the person who created you. And I mean, that's why I think
Moses
it's
spent
important.
40 days alone with God, and he came down the mountain, and it says his face shined.
Yeah.
People couldn't look at him. He had to veil his face.
Oh my gosh. This is actually, what you're saying is so cool too. There's this book, The Practice of the Present by Brother Lawrence.
Yes.
And I think that one's so cool because for me, it broke down a lot of like my ideas of what it had to look like. Like, okay, my secret place has to look like me sitting in the same chair with my Bible open, with soaking music on. And then that's how I'll like spend really great quality time with God. And if I do that 30 minutes a day, I'll be the best Christian ever. It's like, that's
Yeah.
not really right.
Might not be
But
practical.
Brother Lawrence was like,
washing dishes.
Right. He was washing dishes and he was glowing
Yeah.
because he was
with him.
He was engaging with God. He was engaging his heart with God. And that being said, you have to turn your attention towards him. I think that's the biggest. The thing is, when you turn your attention towards him, you'll find his attention is already on you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that I think is like the big, like that's, I mean,
Yes,
to
which is
experience
so
the love
good
of God
because
like that. It's amazing.
we can think like, oh, I did my season of the secret place, but the secret place is not a season.
season.
But in every season, you should have your secret place.
Right.
But what's unique about what you're saying is for Sarah Beth and I, we're in a season of young kids and we don't have the time. I don't have the time I had when we were either newly married or we didn't have kids to just spend lingering with God for hours. And
With
well,
no
now it's like I
distraction,
wake up, I
interruptions.
finally have a moment and, oh, I hear a kid waking up. Or I finally get alone at night and I fall asleep because I've been going, you know what I'm saying? That's like time is so... there's the timer. Time is just, our season is different, yet it doesn't have to
Speaking
look like it did when I was a college student who could just spend hours in secret. It can look like, man, I'm doing dishes, but in this moment, God, I'm engaging you.
Yes.
My spirit is aware with you. And I want to tell this last story and then we'll move to Handlebar.